Okay, in case you're here. I saw the 10 o'clock pop up, so I thought I better engage here. So I'm going to get back here to the control panel. And it looks like the sound might be working. So I'm going to get back here. There we go. Sound's working. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, let's get started. First, I want to mention I'll be up in Minneapolis, actually Mankato, this coming Thursday, 6 p.m., Jimmy's Kitchen in Mankato, and we're going to talk marketing and whatever else you want to talk about, really. It's very casual. We're going to have a beer maybe together, and it's really just a chance to see each other again after all this time. We got some really powerful people registered already, and we'll be doing some more announcements. But if you want to register, and I recommend it because we've got like a table for 8 or something, that's about what we get at these things. The WDMA was founded in 1986, and we kicked it off with Bob Stone as a speaker. And over the years, we had, we rented convention centers and the Italian Community Center and a bunch of nice venues. And when the internet plowed us under, the company went under, the WDMA went under. So, I brought it back from the dead and decided that we would keep the venues casual and keep the promotion casual, and that's what we do. So I really appreciate your support. It means a lot to me. You can't even imagine how much it means. So let's get started. Okay, here's Tom Fishburne for August 1st. Media planning, digital. We should allocate our budget first to digital because our brand is digital first. Right. Whatever it takes to go viral on TikTok. PR, we have to take a stand on any and every social issue to show that our brand has purpose. TV, isn't TV dead yet? Print, yeah, right. Radio, okay, boomer. Finger pointing, why aren't we seeing higher sales? Maybe it's time to change agencies or marketing team or something. Okay, so Tom says that media spending continues to go toward digital. Oops, I gotta smoosh this down a little bit. Continues to go toward digital channels. But digital media brings some interesting new options. This is to execution, but I remain convinced that media are oversold and overinvested across most marketing plans. This is from Mark Ritson, who we're going to be talking about shortly. But, here we go. A significant number of marketers are not driven by data anymore. They look at their own highly underrepresented media consumption and use that as a proxy for their media planning. And don't we all? I mean, we all kind of tend to do that. But he says media like radio and newspapers are dismissed too easily by marketers who need to open their minds to the real possibility that these fantastic channels can offer. Media choices should be driven by the specific goals the marketers are trying to achieve, which is often not the case. And, a lot of the media mix is governed by how much you know about your audience, right? If you have their name and address, then mail can be the most powerful. But so many these days don't even bother with the address if they're not shipping them something, and therefore that kind of rules it out. So one of the first steps, if you want an alternate media, is to collect the information that you need to reach them there. And the less you know about your market, the more likely that low cost per thousand like TV will be the most cost effective because it blankets everybody. If you don't know who's in the market, now this gets at an issue that we're going to be talking about just in a second. Okay, what's the big campaign idea? We're going digital, Facebook, YouTube, a mobile app, Pinterest. What are we going to do in all those channels? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Are the digital ads we buy actually being seen? Absolutely. almost half the time, at least 50% of the pixels for a whole second, hopefully by a human. Maybe maybe on a site without porn, but there's no way to verify that. That explains the low cost per thousand. Yep, it's a great deal. Okay, so anyway, I love what Fishburne puts there. I didn't quite understand this one. We bought your attention, paid media. Newsletter. Please give us your attention. Own. That's like if you subscribe to the WDMA. Hey, at least you'll get the meetup announcements. Earned. Help us get your friends' attention. Yeah, okay. And ignored. Why is no one paying any attention? Yeah, and that's where most companies are at, I think. Okay, here's a fun story. A metal you can bite and eat as well. This is, I don't know how to say Xander Schaufel's name. I just don't. It looks like Schauffele to me, but I'm sure that's wrong. And he won the gold medal, an American. But his family has roots all over the place in the Olympics, and it was either his father or his grandfather was en route to the Olympics. I mean, in training to get there, and was hit by a car or something. But I didn't realize this was like in his family heritage. A bunch of Olympic athletes and a bunch of Olympic aspirations. And so that was really cool. And it's nice to see that an American win golf when we do have quite a few golfers. And for those of you who don't think golf's a sport, I would put it head to head with gymnastics and a lot of other sports any day. But anyway, Blue Diamond came up with a metal made out of almonds that you can eat. And that's what made me think of it, because I saw this picture yesterday. And if you tweet out your favorite winning Olympics athlete, you get a chance to win your own Extremes almond medal. A taste of victory will be spicy. But how many almonds does it take? 20 to 25 almonds. Okay, that's enough. We don't care. You can't buy it. You got to win it with a tweet. And now the meat of the day. The 7 things marketers need to know in order to answer the question. And the question is this one. I understand the importance of long-term brand building. I get the need to invest heavily in it. I get all that, but how do I get X to buy into it and support me? And X is like the CMO or the CFO. And so this is a puzzling question. And what struck me in this 25-minute to read article, which I highly recommend, what struck me is that it so fits the situation with direct marketing. I've been in direct marketing for in September next month. It'll be 40 years that I've been that I started in direct marketing. No, that's 40 years. Let's see. No, I started in 1980. Yeah, 1981. So 40 years as a marketing consultant, mid-September. And, I've seen the power of long-term testing where we let the marketplace tell us what resonates with them. And I've seen the ability to both build the long-term brand image while also, and keep it separate. That was really an interesting point that Mark made. For example, we were able to model for Musician's Friend. We spent a lot of time modeling. I think we built 60 variables to identify people that tended to buy on sale only. And I'm kind of like that. I remember Paul Fredericks used to send me a catalog, and then they'd email me specials all the time. And I would look at the catalog, and then I'd wait for the 20% off coupon. And I do that with Land's End, too. I love their catalog. I look at it. I consider their catalog to be almost more brand building. I remember when I first got started with Land's End, they used to put articles about the sheep herders, the shepherds in New Zealand, and how because of the cold climate up on the mountains, we get really good wool from there, and it makes these great sweaters. And I remember that kind of thing. And they used to put these articles in there, and that was brand building. Even though it was, a regular mailing that had regular results, and we could measure the short-term results. The long-term results, well, heck, I'm still with them today, and that was from the 70s when I started with Land's End. Okay, so how do I get the CFO, the CMO to support me in long-term marketing? And that's the way I would change this article to long-term marketing. Thinking about how do people view my company? Thinking about how do they think about my company when they're not ready to buy? And that's the interesting part about this article, that I'm not sure. I mean, this is just a super article, especially if you're in brand building. But so few marketers are. Most of us have a budget and we decide how we spend it, and we're never going to have the impact, of Apple in 1984, where they took their entire year budget and bought one commercial on the Super Bowl and bet everything on this crazy commercial, and it worked. Right? It was totally brand building. It had nothing to do with a special or a sale or a new item coming out. It just said, we're different than IBM. It's really what it said. We're different than the traditional computer company. And I've shown that commercial on the show where the girl comes in and throws the sledgehammer through the screen, and the Apple logo comes up, and everybody that saw it remembered it. But first of all, you have to have a good brand where you are different. Secondly, you have to have the creative to really stand out and do something crazy. And third, that has to translate into sales, which it doesn't often. Oftentimes, people just scratch their head and say, what is this about? So it's a complicated thing, even if you have a good budget for it. And that's why direct marketing is so powerful. And I can tell you that when I was in an ad agency, we did 5 pitches while I was there, a couple of years, and we won all 5. And in every case, the CEO, the president, or the CFO always said, we really like this idea that you can measure what's going on, that you can test and find out what the marketplace, what resonates with the marketplace. And on Friday, I believe it was Friday, I posted some of my comments from the Direct Marketing Club of New York, and maybe I'll put a link to that down in the comments. But what I had to say was basically that direct marketing and direct mail's ability to drive engagement necessarily, you have to throw it out, it doesn't throw itself out, to drive engagement with a decision maker. Not everybody in the household can throw the mail out. That guarantees that we have both a knowledge of who bought, but also, and almost as important, a knowledge of who engaged and didn't buy. And we get that in no other media. So in that context, we can say, well, let's try mail. Let's give it a shot. And we get one mailing. And you'll learn something from one mailing. But the real benefit comes from long-term and seeing a brand move. I worked with 6 different safety companies, safety catalogs, over a couple of years, mostly in the 90s. And we repositioned each one slightly differently because lab safety was dominating the industry, and lab safety's positioning, it was owned by a woman who said, a lot of the safety buyers are office managers, and they're just trying to have a good amount of safety merchandise, the first aid kits and things strategically placed, and it's not that complicated, and we should do a catalog that's easy to use and colorful and welcoming, essentially. And that made sense for them, and they had explosive growth because of that. But then these other companies would call me up and say, we want to look like that. We want to do that. And so I would find out more about them, and I said, that's maybe not what you want to do. You might want to, for example, I'm trying to think of the name. It was owned by Jensen Tool, but it was down in Phoenix. And they had on staff, they had safety engineers. And so their real forte was working with manufacturing companies and complex safety issues where there were real issues of life and death. And I said, you want to promote that. You want to promote that, when you're looking for more than just a first aid kit, that's the kind of, this is the place you should call. That we have real bona fide, certified safety engineers on staff. And they showed their pictures. And not every, you didn't dial right into them. You dial in and talk to a customer service or a telesales person. And if your application was difficult, they would ask you a lot of questions, and we set that all up, and then it would get referred to the safety engineer. But it positioned their company completely different than lab safety, and their revenue per piece went up because of that repositioning. We worked with industrial safety over in Ohio, and we changed the way they did business in terms of their shipping. We also changed the way they emphasized their social consciousness, which they had a dramatic one. And they'd been funding it for years and years, millions of dollars, and nobody knew about it. And so we changed that, and we elevated that a little bit, and their revenue per piece went up, and their profitability went up. So, where you go depends a little on what your strengths are. It isn't a cut and dried thing. You should never assume that one formula is going to work for another company, and you should let the marketplace dictate some of that. But anyway, so Mark is saying you should allocate half of your budget to long-term brand building. And I would say that thinking should also be used for testing. That the metrics of brand building are very complex, but the long-term lifetime value calculations are very straightforward. And we can help you with those. And you can see the long-term positioning benefit if you keep an eye on the tests and you structure it, and you heuristically, that means you have a feedback loop of what do you observe, which determines your initial tests. And a good test is between the obvious, fix the obvious, and the trivial. Don't bother with the trivial. Someplace in the middle is the interesting test, which is a little bit of an art. It's more than a little bit of an art. It's an art, okay, to understand where to test next. It's not a laundry list. Yes, there's list. Yes, there's offer. Yes, there's creative. But it's more subtle than that, and the paybacks can be dramatically different depending on where you go. And creative, I've seen creative changes boost results 40%. Okay, so one of the reasons this question is so difficult is because marketers have sold the CEO and the CFO on the idea that we can predict when you're going to buy next, because we'll watch for your click. What did I click on just yesterday? I don't know. I clicked on something and I got something popped up and said, I see you're in the market for something or other. And I wasn't. I had a particular reason for looking at something. But, somebody somewhere bought that information and sent me in, wasted their money trying to get at me at that point. I used to sell long-term brand building little newspaper ads. And, some were for funerals. Some were for real estate agents. Some were for pharmacies. And basically the idea was that you may not be sick now, but you're going to be sick sometime. And after you see your doctor for that, bring your prescription to our pharmacy. Or, you're not in the market for a house, but all of a sudden your kids move out and you think, what are we doing in this place? Knocking around in this mansion. Or your mother-in-law needs a place and she moves in and you say, this isn't big enough. Or you have a couple of new kids come along. Or they move back after they finish college. They're back again, and this isn't working. So the idea of brand building is the opposite of what we've been dished up the last 20 years. That with cookies and with tracking, we can tell when you're in the market for X. And it's a lie, because you don't know when the check engine light comes on my car or what I've been dealing with. You don't know what I'm working on, right? And by the time you figure out that the basement flooded with my water heater, it's too late, because I've already went and exchanged it and gotten another one at Menards. because I got my last one at Menards. That's like long-term brand building, and they gave me full credit for it because it was still in warranty. So the long-term isn't just an idea of what does our ad say. The long-term perspective is in completely 180 different direction thinking about your customer and marketing. The long-term brand building says, we're not sure what they're going to buy. We're not sure what kind of computer product they're going to want. But we want them to remember Apple when they decide that they want something, when they start to ask the question. That's the reason for long-term, because you don't know everything. But as long as you pound the drum of we know all about you and we can predict what you want, as long as that's your mantra and you continue to achieve that week after week, month after month, you continue to promise that any minute now we'll get the machine learning tuned and we can know before the customer even knows that they're in the market for a new water heater. We'll predict when that is going to burst. No, you're not. You're never gonna. And that's why brand building is so powerful. And that's why this is a great article to read if you want to sell brand building. But think about the basics. It's much more basic, Mark. It's get marketing off their high horse and tell them to quit promising that they can guess what I want. They don't. What's the definition of marketing? Find a need and fill it. But it's not about predicting the next water heater explosion on a house-by-house basis. It's not going to work. Okay, so this, and I can't get into the details. I really, really recommend that you read this article. To do that, you go down to wdma.org and you hit join, wdma.org/join, join. And you can subscribe for free, and then you get the whole article. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart.